Right, now I'll give you a brief overview of how what's in the file and how it actually works. So I'll just hide that B-table offset sketch. First of all, you've got the Pocket NC itself. So I hide the Vise. That's the model that comes from Pocket NC. Hide that. Actually, I'll bring it back up. Then you've got a base plate plus the DM12 dovetail fixture. I'll do that in a separate video. I'll cover how that works. And then you've got the Vise adapter and Pocket NC Vise, which are supplied by Pocket NC themselves. So even if you're not using my fixture plate, you can use this file for their Vise because it's all jointed and set up. So that just moves forward and back to grip apart. And you'll find I've put these pins in, and you just hide them or make them visible as and when you need them. And then you've got my Vise. So if I hide the Pocket NC, the idea is that really you have to edit these last two joints to set this up. So you'll see they're fixed to the fixture plate, the teeth are fixed. The Vise moves like that, so everything you need is there. You just have to set these last two joints, and what they're doing is just attaching the teeth at the corner to on the Vise and on this component, which is called the locator. They're attaching the teeth on those to teeth on the fixture plate. That's all it's doing. But the idea is that all the joints and everything in here, so for whatever reason you want to edit the file, you can do. So I'll go through the individual components and the individual joints that you need to know about. First and probably most obvious is there's the fixture plate. Then there's the Vise Assembly, which is all the components for the moving Vise. So this is the moving part that grips on something. Then you've got the locator assembly, and then you've got two support assemblies. So the supports just go underneath a component to basically stop it, and whatever you're machining, to stop it touching the fixture plate so you don't potentially kind of scuff up your fixture plate. So looking into the sub-assemblies with a bit more detail, you'll notice first of all you have a knurled jaw. So that's a gripper jaw made from steel, so it'll bite into whatever you're machining, and it'll ensure it won't move on the machine when you're cutting into it. You'll see that you've got several types of Vise jaw here. So you've got, if I bring this up, you've got a bog standard flat jaw, which I don't actually sell. This is purely, I'll show you in another video, that this is purely for setting up the Vise in CAD. It just makes life easier rather than trying to use this knurled jaw, which you'll see. And then you've also got a soft jaw. So two types of jaws really. There's the knurled jaw for gripping stock and for preparing stock, kind of raw material. And then you've got this soft jaw which you machine into for doing second operations. And you'll see that the locator assembly has the exact same thing. So it's got this knurled jaw, and then it has a built-in soft jaw. So the difference here is it's built into the jaw, whereas the locator, because it's one component, it's just built into the locator. So I'll quickly bring that up. There's the knurled jaw version, and there's the soft jaw version. So fairly simple. Hide that again. So for the Vise assembly, it's a bit more complicated because obviously it's got moving parts. If I undo these two joints, you'll see that they move forward and backwards. So the locator, everything is just a rigid group, or what you'd call a rigid group. These are the symbols for rigid groups here. So it's all fixed together, and it's got a sliding joint, so it moves forward and backwards, and all you're doing with these final joints is just fixing the teeth. So that side's fairly simple. And the soft jaw version moves with it. I've closed it down, but you can see the soft jaw version comes up there. The Vise assembly is a little bit more complex because what you're doing is essentially tightening. This is a screw, so you tighten that down. It screws into this T-nut, which is in this T slot, and as it tightens down, because it's wedge shaped, which is what I call them, wedges, Vise wedges, as you tighten them down, it pushes the jaw out to grip whatever you want to grip. whatever you're going to be machining. Now, all those joints are set up. They're set up in here, so you don't have to worry about that. Again, you only have to worry about this final joint, which is fixing it to the base. Otherwise, it will move forward and backwards quite happily. So if I grab it there, you can see it does exactly as the locator assembly does. But the one thing you do need to know is that there are different sizes of wedges. So these teeth, if I just bring up the inspect, you'll see there is 2.5 millimeters. So every time you move forward or backwards, you're moving this assembly forward 2.5 millimeters. So that means to be able to grip everything, you obviously need more than 2.5 millimeters of range. Now, if I had made just one wedge, it would have basically meant I had to make quite a big, cumbersome assembly to allow it to have that range. Instead, what I've done is done 3 smaller wedges. So if I just open wedges, there you see them all. So what have I got there? I've got the largest wedge. So you see when it's in close, the largest wedge is sticking out, which isn't what you want. You want the wedge to have as much contact as possible with the inside face of this jaw and of this vise body. So when the jaw is in close, like this, say you're just gripping your stock there, what you want to do is use a smaller, that's the smallest one. So you'll see this moves down, but once you get to, if I go side on, once you get to there, you can see that it starts going through the bottom of this vise body. So that means once it gets to there, you need to use the mid-size version. And then if you go beyond that, use the large version. But what that does is give you way more than 2.5 millimeters of travel. You should really never have to use this large nut, because if you get to kind of there, you can just move the whole vise body forward one and use the smaller nut, and you'll only have to be tightening it a small distance. But it just gives you that range, just in case for some reason you need it. I'd rather you had it than not kind of miss it, as it were. So that's that. You'll see also when I hid the wedges, you can see you've got the 3 screws as well, so they're just present here. And they all move together, so just hide the ones you need. They're all in there, in the bodies. So just hide whichever ones you need and don't need. So if I come out of there. Yeah, and then finally you've got these supports. You've got 2 of them, 2 support assemblies. And you just move those around to support stock. So I'll show you how to do that in the next video, how to actually set up a piece of stock in CAD and grip onto it with the locator and the vise. But yeah, these 2 supports are just to put stock onto, so you're not going to damage your fixture plate.